Hello, I'm David Hemery. Since I was a young boy, I've been fascinated with running and jumping over obstacles. I remember when I lived on the east coast of England, the fun I had jumping over the wooden breakwaters on the beach. This led to my love of hurdling. By training hard, I was fortunate to reach a standard where I could compete around the world and win at the highest level. Today I want to pass on some of the things that helped me to become a better hurdler. I hope they'll be fun and helpful to you. Please join me.
David Hemery is the most successful hurdler Britain has ever produced. Winner of 2 Commonwealth Games gold medals, former 400-metre hurdles world record holder, and Olympic champion. Since retiring from competition, David Hemery is now considered the complete hurdling stylist and is a sought-after teacher and coach of the event around the world.
You can just spread yourselves out into a semicircle and give yourself enough room that you'll have a bit of area to swing your arms. I think we'll just start with maybe some forward and backward stretching. Just keep your legs about shoulder width apart and stretch down to the ground, hold it just for a second, and come back up. Maybe stretch back a little bit and come forward again, right down. If you can get your hands onto the ground, do, and then come back up. Back and down again. Hold it and back up. You should be doing a series of these. I'll just introduce a few to you. Next one, let's put the feet both facing forwards and stretch down. Keep your upper body a little bit back and try and keep your back leg straight so that you don't bend the knee going down. Just try and leave the back leg as straight as you can. Upper body will allow you to take your weight down to stretch that area. Switch legs. Upper body is straight up and the back leg as straight as possible. To get some mobility in more than just a straight position, put one leg, the back leg, sideways, and it'll stretch the inside of the thigh. And again, keep the body as upright as you can. Try and get as low as you can on it. Bend that front knee a bit more. That's good. Okay, sit onto your heels. Balance yourself behind you with your hands and try and just stretch the fronts of your thighs. Let your knees go down towards the ground. This is the quadricep muscle, which is the front of your thigh. You're trying to stretch out both front and back. This is the front part. Okay, while we're in this position, just sit on the track. Put your heels together. Maybe grab your toes and pull them in towards your seat. And just either individually or together, push your knees out a bit. Pull yourself down, but just enough that you can feel a stretch. Okay? While you're still sitting, let's do some sit-ups. Try and keep your legs bent so you keep the small of the back flat to the ground. It actually prevents a bit of lower back strain. Hands behind the neck and just sit up, touch your knees and then touch alternate knees. Okay? Up, straight, and then touch the left knee first, down, straight up, and then alternate. Okay? Most sit-ups are dealing with the upper abdomen area. For the lower part, which is also important for being able to lift the legs straight, whether you're running or hurdling or whatever, leg lifts are very helpful. If you balance yourself by putting some of your weight on your hands, so you're lying down with taking your seat off the ground, in fact, with your hands, keep your legs about 6 inches off the ground and roll your knees up to your chin and back out to 6 inches off the ground. Okay? Just try a few of those, just half a dozen. Always keep the toes back towards your knees, no matter what you're doing. Pointing the toes is for gymnastics. Athletics, you bring the toe up towards the knee. Half a dozen press-ups. Try and keep the body straight, head up a bit, and just down to the ground. Try and take your chest as low as possible. What exactly is a hurdling race? Obviously it's a sprint race, but they have these obstacles in the way. And these are called hurdles, and you have a complete spectrum of what we have to clear as barriers, and there are normally 10 that constitute part of the race. And you have to try and run this race as a sprint, but clearing these as efficiently and economically as possible. I'm standing right beside...
There are 5 different hurdles of varying heights for specific events. The tallest is the 110-metre high hurdle for men. Next tallest, the junior men's high hurdle. then the 400-metre men's intermediate hurdle, and the two shortest, the women's 100-metre high hurdle and the women's 400-metre hurdle.
With these hurdles, you normally have a weight on them that if you hit into them, there's about an 8-pound resistance. So the best thing is to get as near to them as possible without actually crashing into them. You don't want to clear them very high, because if you do, you're going to be wasting time. So it's the most efficient sprinting you can over these height barriers. Okay, let's go and have a look at how we will actually clear them. Get set, go! Fine. Get set, go! Okay, get set, ho!
A good way to start youngsters or beginners hurdling is to utilise a progressive build-up. Get each to sprint over a short distance, no more than 20 metres, at first with nothing on the track.
Run right through the line.
A flat object should then be introduced, laid across the track for each youngster to run over and
Get
clear.
set, go!
A towel or piece of clothing is ideal. This will cause the beginner to push along the track rather than push upwards.
The drive-off ought to be with as much force as you can get to clear this thing, but run away from it once you land. Get set, go! We've introduced you to the basic form of sprinting, and now to take it the next step towards the start of hurdling. And we have here on the track perhaps the most basic hurdle you could ever have. It's less than a foot high and basically homemade. And I've spaced them 8 meters apart, so you'll get the idea of the rhythm of sprinting. We've got them so that you can take a stride across them. You don't count the one you land on, but you do take 3 strides following it. So land, 1, 2, 3, hurdle. Land, 1, 2, 3, hurdle.
Introducing a small homemade hurdle or box to simulate a feeling of height will cause the beginner athlete to stride between each object and to start to experience the hurdling motion and basic sprinting rhythm.
We've had the single hurdles spaced about 8 meters apart, and now we're going to introduce the use of 2 hurdles. It's very important that you try and clear these with a good driving action. Bring your leg up in the line of running and go again. This is far more akin to the normal hurdling style. Okay, go ahead. As soon as you've cleared the last hurdle, next person leave. Should be a driving knee lift. Okay, before you start, I'd like you to concentrate this time on tapping the track with your feet. Try to get the speed of stride on the track. Okay, go ahead. Next lady, go.
By introducing a second miniature hurdle or small object and placing it approximately 1 metre from the first, the beginner is compelled to drive off the ground, encouraging the start of the overall hurdling motion.
We started just with 1 hurdle, and this is just a very simple addition of a second hurdle on top of the first. So all we're doing is placing exactly the same height hurdle on top of each other, coming to not much more than 1.5 feet. Righto, the same hurdling action, just a little bit more exaggerated. It's the next step up. Get set, go.
By increasing the overall hurdle or obstacle height, the beginner athlete has to raise the lead leg higher and faster in order to achieve a fast and clean clearance. This helps to initiate a positive action and rhythm, a run over the obstacles rather than a jump.
Okay, we've had a couple of practices already with different practice hurdles. This is the first time we'll be going over a proper hurdle, and this is about as low as you can get it. If possible, try and make sure you bring your knee up in the line of running and then drive the heel over the hurdle. So that is your basic lead leg action coming over the hurdle. To balance that, your arm ought to be leaning down towards your toe. It doesn't have to touch the toe, but somewhere in this middle line with the arm to balance that lead leg. So this is how you've started that lead leg over. The other leg, try and turn the toe out as much as possible, rather like Charlie Chaplin style. And as soon as you've pushed off and turned that toe out, you synchronize the timing of this arm and that foot so that when one starts back, the other starts forward. And it's important to keep the elbow high. As you lift your knee up to the front, your elbow will come up to the back, and you're in a pretty good position to sprint away from the hurdle. Tell me what you're going to think about.
Bring the leg over
with a bent leg. Okay, that's your cue. We'll watch that. Go ahead. What are you going to think about?
I'm going to concentrate on my arm and my leading leg.
Okay, try for it. Much better. What's your focus going to be?
I'm going to concentrate on my arm action, hand to toe.
Okay. What's your focus going to be?
Arm to leading leg.
Okay, go ahead.
Once the beginner starts the process of actually hurdling, it is advisable for the teacher or coach to give the youngster one thing only to remember for each run-through, whether it is concentrating on the position of the lead leg, the trail leg, the lead arm, or sweeping trail arm. This concentration on just one objective per run-through will give the young hurdler a better chance of constructive improvement.
No matter what kind of activity you're doing, whether you're a dancer or a musician or a golfer, there are certain specific things that you do for your particular sport. For hurdling, I was shown by my coach 2 exercises or drills that I did every single day from the time he introduced them to me, every time I came to the track until the Olympic final. And I think they're so basic to the motion of hurdling, I think it's very helpful if you can follow these drills every time you come to the track. The first one is for the trail leg, and if you've got yourself a fence or a railing that you can hold on to, you can put the hurdle about 1 meter to a meter and a half away from the fence. Put your hands on the fence, hold your leg behind you, and step beside the hurdle. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I have my foot beside the hurdle, a little bit in front of it, and my trail leg is lifted right behind me. And I lift the toe out, Charlie Chaplin style, and then the knee gets lifted right to the front as high as it possibly can be in the line of running, and then down in front of me. Over the hurdle and up to the front. And just continue that motion as part of your warm-up drill every time you come to the track. And it's that rhythmical motion that has to be repeated many times. When you first try it, you'll find that that band of muscle that's in there isn't really conditioned to be able to lift that leg in a fairly strange action over the hurdle. But the more you do it, the better that muscle will be conditioned. Most of us move our legs straight forward when we're walking or running. So to have one leg be pulled around by turning the toe out, pulling it around and up, there's a requirement for developing that muscle, and that's what this exercise will help. See if you can duplicate that. Stay tall on your toe.
As a development of the exercise for the trail leg, one should stride down a row of hurdles set at a comfortable height, with the lead leg remaining free to run normally, but with the trail leg clearing the edge of the hurdle. This should be practiced constantly, in addition to the more static exercises against the fence or wall.
Okay, the second exercise is for the lead leg. Again, if you have a railing to hold on to or some kind of fencing that's maybe waist height or thereabouts, try again to stay in the same position you would with running. Hips high, on the toes, and you just swing your knee up. And it's very simple to swing the knee up in the line of running. Knee up high, and then kick the heel out at the height of the hurdle. Try and get it as direct line as possible, and once you're warmed up, make it as vicious as possible, almost as if you're doing a karate kick. So you warm up gently, kicking out at the height of the hurdle, staying tall, and not letting the body come back. It's a very easy exercise to do wrong. You see people kicking, and you don't want to have them going over the hurdle leaning backwards. You retain your upper body lean as if you're going into the hurdle. Knee lift and kick out. Knee lift and kick out. It should become second nature to you. And again, a fast lead leg is a very good thing to be learned. It's a good suppling exercise. It's a very important exercise for the hurdler. High knee lift and kick the heel at the height of the hurdle. And imagine yourself coming up and driving into the hurdle. So you get a picture of what you're trying to do. High knee lift and drive the heel at the height of the hurdle. Stay tall on your toes. Good. Try not to flick your toe out. It's a knee up and then push the heel out, so your toe still stays back. If you remember, the pointed toe is for gymnastics. Heel back towards your knee is for athletics. Knee up first, and then heel out. If you don't have a rail to hang on to, another way of checking whether your lead leg drill is going correctly is to have something. It doesn't have to be a relay baton, it could be a stick, it might even be a rolled up piece of paper. But all you're trying to do is to hold something between your hands and see if you're lifting your knee high enough to be able to kick something from between your hands. So you still stay in that same action of being high on your hips, high with your hips, on your toes, and try and lift your knee up and kick. All you want to do is try and get your knee high enough. Hold the hands at whatever height you feel comfortable in driving over a hurdle. But the most important thing is that you lift your knee up very high before you initiate the heel kick. This is another very important drill to be using. If you step over a hurdle and put your heel on the crossbar on the bottom, try and lean forward as if you just landed over the hurdle. And what you're practicing here is that there's a synchronization of hand and foot motion. The hand is balanced in front of you and the foot behind, and you move both at the same time. So they arrive up, the knee is to here when the hand goes back. So it's basically, all you're doing is moving the hand back as the knee comes over. That's a very important synchronization to practice. And the most important thing to be thinking about as far as the arm goes is that it's swept around the knee, almost like you're drawing water around yourself in a bathtub. Your hand starts at the front. It may push out a bit to grab a bit of water, then pull it around your leg. If you bend the arm, it's in an ideal position. The hand is kept down and the arm is bent. It arrives up in an ideal position to sprint for the next hurdle. Lean your right hand forward, because that's your left leg over there. Right hand forward, and the left arm should be pretty much beside you, as it would be as you go over the hurdle. Lift the back leg up, and now pull forward. Very good. Back over again. That arm is out, just as if you were going to go over the hurdle, and you can sweep it a little bit round that knee. Okay? Go ahead. Okay? Stay tall and a little bit forward. Lean a little bit forward while you're doing it. Hand out and sweep it round the knee. If you can imagine that hand is in water, give it a shot at coming around the knee as if you're in a bathtub. Give it a pull, sweep around. Okay. There are two types of exercise that are extremely important for the hurdler. One is to find something. It can be a hurdle, it could be a steeplechase barrier or a fence of some sort. Try and make sure that the flexibility you have is the knee up with the foot as straight a line as possible from that knee to that foot. So your mobility work for one stretching exercise ought to be like this. You can stretch it down, but always bring it up to as far as you possibly can to have a good knee lift position. The other very important area for mobility for the hurdler is to be able to put your leg into this position rather than where you're sitting on the ground, which would have your leg in that position. For hurdlers, this is a very important flexibility position. And to stretch down to the ground this way and then over the leg. And do that with both legs, so you have a balance in your flexibility. But generally, having your leg up on the side of something is extremely helpful.
There are a number of exercises and drills for the hurdler designed to develop specific coordinations and to help establish the correct hurdling positions of the legs, arms and trunk. These exercises should be practiced as often as possible in a class situation or alone. And if you do not have access to proper hurdles, you can construct your own, made of wood and cane, with adjustable pegs allowing for various jumping heights.
Take your marks. Set.
Whenever possible, try and complete each teaching session with a race or competitive situation. Pair the youngsters off, trying to match their abilities as closely as possible. Start with a short sprint, with no more than 6 or 7 hurdles per race. The hurdle height being decided by the level of proficiency of the youngsters. This competitive spirit will help lift the enthusiasm of the beginner from the outset of the teaching process. This is Greg Foster of the United States, Olympic medalist and amongst the world's greatest 110-meter high hurdlers. This is Olympic champion Edwin Moses, also of the United States, undefeated in over 100 consecutive races in the 400-meter intermediate hurdles. These two events require different hurdling techniques to reach world class. Likewise, the 3,000-meter steeplechase event again requires a different hurdling technique to either of the sprint events. Once you have reached a good level of overall hurdling proficiency, it will be necessary to choose one of the specific hurdling events best suited to your talents. Get your teacher or coach to help guide you. Whatever your choice, develop a good basic hurdling technique before specializing.
Hurdling is fundamentally a sprint race, combined with a fluent clearance of 10 hurdles. Initially, just learn the basics of hurdling. Then later you'll be able to decide whether to concentrate on 100 or 110-meter high hurdles, the 400-meter hurdles, or even steeplechasing if you're more a middle distance runner. First, find a way of establishing a stride pattern to the first hurdle. Second, accelerate fast to the first hurdle with a high hip position and a good arm action. Third, be bold on your takeoff. Direct your lead leg in a straight path over the hurdle. Fourth, after takeoff, turn your trail leg toe out, Charlie Chaplin style. Then lift your knee up into the line of running. Fifth, if you're a beginner, go for a long follow-up stride after you've cleared each hurdle. Finally, and really this is the most important part for me, remember not everyone can win, but you can try your hardest to do your best. So just go out there and enjoy your hurdling. Work hard at your drills and technique, and that self-mastery will give you a great satisfaction and pleasure. It has for me. Good luck.